think if you're watching this live, it's good evening. Good evening, folks, and welcome to another episode of The Tool Shed. If you're not already a member of The Tool Shed, all you need to do is jump on the App Store or perhaps jump onto Google Play, depending on what sort of phone you have, and you'll be able to find the app. It's simply called The Tool Shed, and it's an environment that's specifically designed for people involved in the building industry. So we've got builders in there, we've got all sorts of sub-trades, and we're creating an environment where everybody in the building industry can get together, help each other out, understand each other's problems, and make the whole shooting match far more fun, profitable, enjoyable for everybody involved. So come in and join the Tool Shed. Now, the purpose of the Tool Shed podcast is to speak to people in the building industry that can help us build a better business, open our eyes to some things that we didn't know existed that we can put into our business to make them a whole lot better, and help us, particularly today's or this evening's conversation, help us spend more time doing what we're good at and less time doing the stuff that we probably hate. And we spend a whole bunch of time on it because we don't like it. Sometimes we don't understand it. We put it off. We stick our head in the sand and go do the stuff that we're comfortable doing. And after a while, if you keep doing that, it'll bite you on the bum. So that's hopefully what we're going to cover here this evening. So my very special guest is Lana Burgess. Lana, I'm going to let you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your business because it sounds fascinating.
Wonderful. Yes, 100%. Thank you so much for having me, Mick. I really appreciate it. So I run Exceptional Tradie Solutions. So we specialise in supporting trades and construction businesses with all their admin in their business. I come from a trades family myself. My dad's a builder, my stepdad's a builder, my uncle's a plumber. So I grew up around the chaos. That's putting it mildly. So basically, I grew up around a family where my dad was one of those trades that spent all day on site, came home and did more work, spent 5 minutes with us at the dinner table, then disappeared into his office. And basically, that led to the breakdown of my parents' marriage. And basically, my family kind of disintegrated. And my mission these days as part of that is to not only support the trades, but support the families so they can save those relationships. And I get told constantly that what I do for the trades and builders and businesses that I work with, that I'm saving their marriages, I'm saving their families because they can spend time together and not basically go through what my family did, where basically my dad was a workaholic. And he basically spent, all time in his business and then wasn't present in my life, wasn't present in my brother's life, wasn't present with my mother. And basically, it's so common in the building industry that this stuff happens, because tradies have a massive habit of spending all day on site just to come home and go in the office, do all the quoting and invoicing, all the catch up on the calls and admin that they miss throughout the day. So my mission is to basically take all of that off their hands, and basically all they have to worry about is heading to site, doing what they do best on site, then coming home to their family with all the admin and the phone calls and the management of their business, all the things that they're terrible at, done for them, so they can basically do what they do best and spend the rest of the time with their family.
Yeah.
That's my mission.
Really good to hear you say that. That's like very, pardon me, parallel to, I'm not getting emotional, by the way. I just had something stuck in my throat. But it could be a subject that you could get very emotional about.
I'm very emotional. It's very personal to me.
Yeah.
Because, I've experienced the effects of what can happen when you live in that kind of life. my family was never the same after my parents' divorce.
Yeah.
And basically, there's so many families that break down because of these issues where, you don't spend any time with your family.
Yeah.
Because you're constantly either on site during the day or you're coming home and you're doing all the admin and paperwork and you're not prioritizing your family. Not to mention, it's almost impossible to do all the hats that are in a trades business or a builder's business, or there's so many hats. They have to answer the phone, they have to do the quoting and invoicing, they have to chase payments, they have to manage cash flow. There's so many aspects of a trades or building business, as you probably know. So basically, having all of that means they're less stressed and they can focus on what they do best. And yeah, trades and builders aren't known for their business skills or their communication skills either. So basically, we take that off their hands. So they're less stressed about the everyday admin and communication and managing the clients and managing them, the payments and invoicing, and managing all the admin. So basically, my mission, because I'm a very good admin person, that I was kind of born for that. I'm very organized, and I'm the opposite of my family. I can basically, I'm very good at communication. I'm very good at managing customer support and building relationships. So my mission now is to be able to use those skills and what I've been through personally to be able to make a difference to the trades and construction industries and take care of all the things that they're not good at, can't do, or don't want to do.
Yeah.
So
good to hear that somebody else has a mission to do that, because it's very parallel to the mission that we've got here with the tool shed, and that is to get rid of a lot of the unnecessary pain that pretty much most people experience in the building industry because of the practices that we tend to hang on to that they just don't serve us well, and you've outlined a whole bunch of them. Now, we were having a conversation today in Builder's Business Black Belt. That's our sort of top tier membership, and we have a conversation every day. And they were talking about some of the things that they didn't like doing. One of which was estimating and all the things that go along with that. But one of the questions that was asked, and I'd like your take on this, is they felt it, and I know you're offering something slightly different, but people have, particularly if you've built this business from scratch, you have a challenge letting go. And so how do you manage that? What are the things that you do, say, help your clients understand so they feel okay to hand over the invoicing and all of those sorts of things that don't get done properly by them anyway, but they still have a stranglehold on them?
Well, I take them step by step and assure them that basically this is actually going to get done properly. And I find that I'm taking care of a lot of businesses at the moment where basically we go step by step. This is what we can do here, and I actually deliver on that. And I guide them through it, and I have calls and meetings just to make sure that they are comfortable. And we basically go step by step and say, this is what we can do here. Let's put this together. And then basically I start small and work them way up until they are comfortable. And a lot of them I'm finding basically are more comfortable the more we go along. But it's step by step with tradies, that I go in, I review their processes, I improve them, and then I basically take over. And it's just step by step and small steps, and the more that I do with them, the more comfortable they become.
Yeah. What are some of the things that you find with a trades-based business they're kind of happy to let go of and go, here, Lana, please take this? And what are some of the things they go, oh, I don't know whether I can trust somebody else with it? What are the specifics?
Invoicing quote is something that they really struggle to let go of because they're worried that we'll get it wrong. But I go in step by step, and actually I've got clients that say to me now, I'm so glad you're taking care of the invoicing and quoting because you do it so much better than me. That is what I hear from my clients now. But at the start they're like, well, how are you going to know how to invoice and quote? Well, I'll get the information off you. I'll get it out of your head. We'll put a process together, and then basically, and now they're just like, oh, why didn't I do this sooner? So basically, I just basically get all the information, and we put it together processes so they can do the invoicing and quoting, because that is the biggest thing that tradies don't have time to do, and they wonder why the quotes aren't being accepted and the invoices aren't being paid, because they don't have time to do all the invoicing and quoting. Or what they do is basically they leave it until the end of the day and do it between 6 and midnight most nights, and that is not healthy. You can't work 18-hour days and not burn out. So it's not just about the spending all day on site, then coming home and doing the invoicing and quoting and the admin. It's just impossible for you to work that many hours without burning out. And then basically you get sick, and then where's your business then? So it's about, so the invoicing is taking care of the phone calls. That's another big one that tradies actually love handing over, and they can't take those calls, and they're actually missing opportunities by not handing that over, because you can't answer a call while you're on a roof, and you can't answer a call when you're on site. And if specifically with trades, like customers, they're going to call companies until they can find the person that can help them. They're not going to call back. So if you don't pick up that call the minute that customer rings, they've gone elsewhere. You've lost that business for good. So it's about capturing those opportunities. And the biggest thing that trades don't do is lead qualifying. I educate them and say, you need to lead qualify. You don't accept every single job into your business, because it's not. But they're like, oh, we'll just book it in. It doesn't matter. But then when they go and do the job, they wonder why they didn't lead qualify.
Yeah.
Because
we get plenty of those people who have a customer who they regret having taken on. So qualification is really important. We'll get to the phone calls in a moment. But something that I'd like to unpack, and I certainly don't want to throw you under the bus here, but I want to talk about a bit of a prickly topic, because they were talking about this morning. Now, invoicing, I can understand that you can set up processes and what have you. And so I just want to pass on the questions and concerns that and these guys are builders, so it might be slightly different to, let's say, a plumber, an electrician, where there's lots of smaller jobs. But even so, the bigger plumbers, bigger electricians, they have quite large jobs. And the concern today in our conversation was the risk of somebody else doing a quote and there's an error, and then that costs the business. And if you need to check somebody else's work so thoroughly that you're eliminating that risk, why are you even doing that in the first place? And I thought, what a great question. I thought, I'm just going to speak to somebody tonight who's at the other end of that question, and I'd really like to get your thoughts on how you work around that.
So when I'm starting with a new business, I do a large process to make sure that we are quoting accurately. I do not basically quote unless I'm 110% sure of accuracy. So basically, in the onboarding process, I get their figures. I get what they need to get on the quotes and the invoicing and the estimates, and I make sure it is 110%. And in the first, I also, make sure and have conversations with the trade to make sure that, yes, this is what needs to be done. This is what needs to be done. And then basically I check, is this right? Are you happy for me to send this? So it's checking. And then once we're in it a little bit further and we've done some successful quotes together, that's when I start taking the reins more. But in the beginning stages, especially when starting with a new business, I basically work with them in depth to make sure the quoting and invoicing processing is correct. And then basically from there, and that way I'm actually doing the hard lifting, but they're also checking over it in the beginning stages. So basically I work with them in depth to say, this is what I've done. You're okay with this? Then I send it. And then basically once we've got a process happening and we're at the point where where everything is running perfectly. There's been no errors. There's been no issues, and there wouldn't be errors or issues when we're going through it in depth together. And I'm getting their approval before sending it off.
Yeah.
So it's all about getting approval, and then basically once we've done some successful, and we get an idea of what's happening, and there hasn't been any issues, then basically I take more of the reins from them.
Yeah.
So it's about leaning them in step by step, and then once I know their process is back to front, that's when I start taking the reins. So it's all about working with them in the interim, and then once they're happy, and everything is working smoothly, and we've got the processes down pat, that's when we take the reins.
Yeah.
Hope that answers.
So people need to understand that, and I've had this conversation many a time, encouraging builders, our members, to use virtual assistants and so forth to help them with their business. It's not something you can go, okay, I found a virtual assistant, flick the switch, everything goes over there and it all works perfectly. You've got to create a relationship. You've got to have communication. Yep. You've got to build systems and procedures together.
Yep.
And that will take a little bit of time and to and fro to get to know each other.
But I would take, obviously a lot of the work off them. I create the draft, and then I say, this is ready. Do you want to check it? Just check if it's all good, and then we send it off. So it's all about me doing the lion's share of work, and they just have to check over it, and then we send it off. And then once we've got a process and a procedure and everything, I know their processes back to front, that's when basically we'll take over it. But in the interim, like for the first month or two of working in their invoices and quoting procedures, everything has to be approved for them before and that obviously takes away a lot of the risk.
Because we're going live, there's some comments and things coming through. And so Joel has just made a comment. He says, quoting, I feel, is quite easy, say for a painter or a floor sander, where there are a lot of rates, square metre rates and so forth, and they don't change much from job to job, and would easily be substituted for a system or a checklist. But he feels that the building, and this is a good part of the question, or renovating is slightly different, where there is a massive technical aspect. So being able to, for instance, and the question was asked this morning, being able to put an accurate quote together, say for a renovation, would require somebody to be on site. So I suspect what you're talking about there isn't so much quoting for a job like that, but perhaps pricing the materials and so forth.
Yeah, it really depends on it really depends on the specific business. So yes, there may be some businesses where it's a little bit more trickier to quote and estimate than other businesses. But at the end of the day, I'll work with the business to make sure that it actually does fit and does work for them. And if we have to sit together and go through it in the interim, just to get used to how things operate. But yes, there are going to be some instances where the trade will need to do all of the estimates and on site, but then they could come back and say, this is what my findings were on site. Can you turn this into a quote or an estimate? So there's different ways you can go about it. Yeah.
And I suspect, it would be for different types of projects, different types of businesses. But I think for the majority of businesses, in fact, all businesses, there would be things that could be outsourced no matter what. I think that you can create an invoicing process, a call process, how to answer calls and what to do with them, and working together to create a qualification process to ensure that you're not just taking calls, taking messages, sending them on and wasting their time. Having somebody in that front line to ask the right questions to qualify that lead, to find out where they are in the process.
That's part of what we do. Every single business has processes and procedures. Every single business. So basically, we have an onboarding procedure where we basically get every single thing out of their head, and we turn that information into policies, procedures, and guides lead qualifying procedures. the right questions to answer to be able to get the information we need to then put it in the job management systems. Invoicing, quoting procedures. Every single thing that I do for clients is in a procedure. And it's customized to them and what they need.
What I'd really like to get a handle on is some experiences you've had with people coming to you, struggling to let go and trust, but you've eventually won their trust and you've got some stuff going. What difference has it made to them? What have you noticed? How have they changed? What is their experience like once they have that trust and can feel comfortable passing that on?
Yeah, there's a business that I've been working with recently. Well, I've been working with them for about 3 or 4 months now, but now basically we're taking care of all the invoicing and quoting. And he's like, I feel such such a weight off my shoulders because I don't have to worry about the invoicing quoting and you're taking care of it for me. And I've got time to be able to take on more jobs and more work. And I'm bringing in more money than I was before we started working with them. So it's not just the quoting and invoicing. He's no longer taking calls on site. He's no longer being interrupted when he's on jobs. He's getting more done. And he's saving time, money, his sanity, and he can spend time with his family when he gets home. And that's not something he could do before we came along. So those are the sorts of stories. And I got told recently by one of my clients is like, my marriage was on the rocks because I wasn't spending time with my family, and now we have saved their marriage. So things like that. Taking care of all the communication has been a massive weight off these businesses' shoulders, because they can just go on and do what they do best. They don't have to worry about all the different hats that they have to wear, and reconciling their payments and making sure they're getting paid on time and getting quotes and invoices out promptly so they can actually focus on the work instead of worrying about when money's coming in, and where the next job is, and just getting all the lion's share of admin done so they can focus on going home to their family. They can focus on the parts of the business that they want to focus on, and that's the biggest thing is time, money, their sanity, and taking care of all the stressful things in their business.
How do you find the conversation goes when you're speaking with someone who finds it difficult to pay for a service that they've traditionally done themselves? Now, I'm sure, like we could stand back from it and we would know that if they invested more time in the activity that they're far better at, that they're far more effective at, that the business becomes more profitable. And most tradies and most builders would happily put their hand up and say, I'm not very good at the administration, not very good in the office, I hate it, it takes a lot of time, but they still find it difficult to reconcile paying for that service when they do it themselves. What's the conversation you have with people when they bring that up?
In my experience, they're actually wasting more money and losing more money by not getting their admin taken care of.
Yeah.
Because a lot of work that tradies do is fixed price. And if they're being interrupted and jobs are taking twice as long, they're actually losing money. Not to mention, basically, they've got a certain amount of time to get jobs done, right? And if they're being interrupted by phone calls, they need to get an invoice out. They need to handle all the admin. Basically, it's taking them twice as long to finish a job. And if they're not a fixed price and basically they go overtime, they're losing money. As well as basically they can take on more work. So then the time that they were doing admin, they could go out, do more work and focus on the billable hours in their business. So basically all the admin and the phone calls and all the invoicing and quoting, they are non-billable hours. That is hours that they are wasting and they're not getting money from. They need to focus on maximizing their billable hours because that is where they're going to bring more money into their business. And that is, if they don't maximize their billable hours, then they are just wasting money. And you are going to having a service and paying for a virtual assistant to take care of all that means they're making more money, not less.
Yep. You bring up a good point about this. I just want to unpack this because you sort of said they're doing it and they're not billable hours. The reality, folks, is that those hours are billable, but most builders, tradespeople don't bill them out because they didn't allow for them in the quote or whatever, or I'm doing it myself or I'm doing it out of hours or whatever, so it doesn't get paid for. I would suggest to you that the best thing you can do is invest in getting somebody else, another organisation to do those things, because then it costs you. Then you've got to pay that bill. That then becomes a legitimate, measurable cost to your business that you can then charge out. Yep. And the by doing it yourself and not valuing your own time enough to charge out for it, I think you're doing yourself an absolute disservice. Now, I want to ask you a little bit about yourself, because you said you had tradies as parents and relations and all of that sort of stuff. So how the hell did you get involved in this? Like, what was the very first step? Like, I'm sure you didn't leave school and then go, I know I'm going to start up a business to do it, take all of this stuff off tradies. What was the sequence of events that ended you up in this?
Okay. Well, to be honest, no, I did not plan to get in this industry at all. So it just basically, it didn't really get into my head until I was actually managed to fall into working as an admin person in an electrical company 10 years after I left home. So basically, I grew up around, my dad's a builder and, my uncle's a plumber. My stepdad was also a builder. So I grew up around, tradies and builders. But when I started working, I was, I worked in hospitality. I worked in, admin in other industries. But then basically after I spent some time, and I've spent the last 10 years working in admin roles in the building and electrical industries. But it wasn't until probably 10 to 15 years after I left home and I was trying to work out what I was going to do that I thought, oh my God, I grew up around tradies. This is where I can make a huge difference. And I was working for an electrical company and I was just like, there are so much I can do. And then I realized, I know these industries back to front because I grew up around them. And then, basically, I was, working in this electrical company, and then I had a brainwave and I thought, I want to support other trades businesses to be able to have the time to be able to do what they do best. And I was, taking phone calls and doing admin and emails and all the things that I do now in my business, but for someone else. And basically, that's when I basically decided to start this business and to support tradies. And my passion for supporting tradies and families came later. When I realized, what other families are probably going through because of, the way tradies operate, working all day and then coming home, spending 5 minutes and going into the office and doing that 7 days a week, and the burnout and all the health issues, and the fact that, that there's tradies are just really struggling mentally, emotionally, physically. They're burning out, they're getting really stressed. And I was just like, this is where I want to spend my time to basically not only save tradies time, money, their sanity, but also save relationships and families. So basically that's how my business came about. But no, I didn't plan to go into this industry after, being around trades for most of my life, really. but yeah, basically, I just found myself in an electrical role, and then basically decided to use my experience over the last 10 years working in electrical and building and construction industries. And then I've actually been through this personally. So then basically I started the business. That's basically the story.
Can we talk about the personal side of things? And please only speak about what you feel comfortable speaking about. But I think it's valuable to have a conversation about the effect, because you've just mentioned that the stress and the builders and the owners of trades-based businesses, they don't really look after themselves too terribly well. They put themselves last. They're doing all of these hours. They work really hard. In fact, in the tool shed this month, it is Health and Wellness Month, and we're talking about all of this sort of stuff, so it's kind of timely. But that's them. And I remember, my dad was a builder as well, and I remember him being in the office during the nights and all that sort of stuff. I don't know that it affected me too terribly. Maybe it did. Maybe there's some strange things I do because of it. But it obviously is something that you're very, very passionate about because it affected you. And I think it'd be great if you're comfortable with it, telling the listener or the viewer your experience as a family member of a trades-based business owner, because a lot of the times they're saying they're doing it for the family, but it
turns out not to be that case.
It negatively affects the family.
Well, it did affect me because I felt like as a child my dad was never there. And that still affects me to this day. We don't have a relationship today because I felt like he wasn't there for me when I needed him. And I still feel like that. I'm 30 years old now, but I still, feel like that. And, obviously that led to my parents' divorce, and that affected me a lot. And then my mother married a bad man, and that led to a lot of family chaos in a bad way. Basically I felt abandoned by my dad growing up and by my family because of the way my dad operated. And the fact he was never present. He didn't know that I was going through, I went through abuse with my mother and stepfather. I don't speak to them today as a result. My dad was so impresent in my life, he didn't know what was going on in my life. And that's something that I struggle with to this day. So it affected me a lot, and it still affects me now. Not having, and I don't have great relationships with my parents. I feel like if my early childhood was different and that my family was more present, I think my life would be very different these days. So yes, it did affect me a lot, more than I can say.
Yeah, and thanks for sharing that. I really, really appreciate. Obviously, it's a raw subject, a raw topic, but I think it's important to talk about this. We can talk about your services and all of that sort of stuff that you offer, but the reality of the situation is that the tool shed is there to give support to everybody in the building industry, because this sort of stuff goes on. People get started, they start their own business because their vision is that they are going to have more time freedom, more financial freedom. We know for a fact that the financial freedom thing is very, very rare. That very few businesses are profitable. But I think relationships and happiness and family connections and health are far, far more important than the money thing.
Yep.
And being able to have the time and the confidence in the things that have to be done in your business are getting done properly can give you that confidence to be able to get those things off your plate and be a bit more present with your family, because as is very obvious from what you're talking about, it doesn't just affect the person working long hours, it affects everybody else in their family. So How are you finding that with your clients? Like, are they getting more time freedom? Are they
Yep.
coming to you to say that they're being able to spend more time with their? What sort of feedback are you getting from that sort of thing
Exactly
from
that.
clients?
They've got more time for family. They've got more time to do other things besides, sitting in their office. They're not drowning in admin and paperwork. They're basically doing exactly what I tell them that, I advise that they can do, which is going to site, completing the job, and going home to their family. And that's exactly what they get. And they're not worried about all the admin and the paperwork, and they're not worried about all the invoicing and quoting and making sure that, payments are being done. They're not worried about the quoting and where the next job is coming from, because we take care of all of that for them. So it's really all about giving them that time back so they can focus on those relationships and saving those relationships. And that's what I'm passionate about, is giving not just the tradies, but the families and the people around them time together, instead of what happened to my family, which was basically the complete opposite of that. And I wish that I could go back in time with my family. And that's what I'm determined to provide to other trade families. And I want to basically save their relationships, save their families from going through what mine did. So that's basically my mission and my passion, and my clients are experiencing that. And
Do you have that conversation with them? Like, do you have conversations with your clients? I know it sounds a bit strange, but do you have those conversations with your clients about your experience being a family of a trades-based business, so they can get a different perspective?
Some of them know, yes, some of them know, and some of them really respect me for that. But obviously, I'm a professional, so I don't go into it with everyone. But they know I'm passionate about providing them the services that I do. So yes and no to that question. It really obviously depends, but for all of it, basically, my aim is to be able to give them that time freedom, make sure everything is taken care of, so they can go out and do what they do best in their trade, and not have to worry about all the business and admin that goes around it. That is just as important, but when tradies go into business, as you probably know, that they don't realize just how much goes into it. They just think, oh yeah, I'm going to create a business, I'm going to go out and do jobs, but they don't realize all the other things that they have to do. So yeah, basically my clients, that they can spend time doing what they love, doing what they train to do. Tradies didn't train to do admin. They didn't train to run a business. They trained to be a tradie. So
can you just go back to some of the things that that they don't do? Because the thought that I had there is potentially, do you, with your clients, help them to understand some of the things that they just weren't doing at all? Do can you give us some examples of some things that they just weren't doing at all that they should have done, and you're now doing it for them, and it's made a difference?
Well, the quoting and invoicing, they were just so behind on it constantly. All the paperwork, the lead qualifying, a lot of them were like, well, these jobs really aren't a good fit. Like, they're all over the place. And now we go in and we ask the right questions, and we give them the jobs that they need and that fits with the way their business operates. So they're lead qualifying. It's answering those calls, because basically tradies, they can't be answering calls while they're in the middle of a job at someone else's house. So taking care of that, lead qualifying, the quoting and invoicing, they can take on more work because they're not, so many businesses, they're probably spending 20, 25 hours a week on admin that they didn't realize they were spending. And now they can actually spend that time doing work, increasing and maximizing their billable hours, and basically, doing all the things that the admin in their business stopped them from doing.
How long do you roughly find it takes to develop a good working relationship with a trades-based business, so they get to that point where they can just go, Lana, can you take care of this, or you know, they just feel confident in duck shoving it over to you, and they know it's going to get done.
Well, most of my clients pretty much trust me from the get-go, because I understand their business, I understand what needs to be done, and I go in there and start implementing straight away. So really, it doesn't take long for clients to, to hand things over. In fact, I've started with a new client this week, and he's already given me access to everything, and basically I'm already implementing, things, and he's just like, just get in and do it, because I just want it done. So those, yeah.
Does
so
that weigh on you at all when someone says, "Here's all the access to my bank accounts, take care of everything"?
Well, his zero in his email, he literally just said, I just want it taken care of, because I just cannot handle all the admin and the dysfunction anymore. I just want you to take care of everything, and I can focus on doing jobs. So, and that happened, like, I've been working with him for like 5 days, and he's already handing everything over to me. Like, I've been working him for months.
So
but then I've got some businesses that yes, I've been working with them for a few months.
Yeah.
And they're starting to, obviously, it depends on every business owner is different.
So what's the first step? So run us through, if someone is watching this video, watching the replay, watching us live, and they're going, this sounds like, it sounds good. It maybe even sounds too good to be true. So I need to dip my toe in. I need to do something. Like, I like the idea of it, but what's their first step so all of the buts can start to get taken care of and answered?
So the first thing I do is have a discovery session with that client. So I jump on, and I either have a phone call or a Zoom meeting with them, so I get to know them, get to know what their needs are, how we can help them. And it's it's a strategy session to work out the bits that, because some businesses, want it all, and some of it just want, like, answering phones or doing invoicing and quoting. And some of it want it all, like this new client of mine that I've been working with for 5 days that's handed over everything. He wants everything. But some clients just want a bit. So basically, we have a discovery session. We talk about their business. We understand what they do. And then basically we have an onboarding questionnaire, which I get them to brain dump every single thing in their business. And basically then from there, basically we get the ball rolling. We start the process. And then we start answering their calls. We get everything underway so we can support them.
So can people cherry pick what they want done?
Yes.
So you can, there's a full, you can have the full disaster, or you can I just want my calls answered, or I just want my invoices done, or my calls and my invoices. So you can pick and choose.
Yeah. I have a checkbox. And you find
that out in that discovery session?
The discovery session and the onboarding questionnaire. So in the onboarding questionnaire, basically we have a whole list of things that we can do for them. So they would just, if they want that, they can tick that off. So there's about 20 different services that I put in there, and they can choose which ones they want. And then basically from that, we will obviously action what ones they want. A lot of them want it all, but and some of them want just, invoicing, quoting, or answering their phones, or, dealing with suppliers and ordering supplies, so it really varies depending on what the business wants, but we can do it all, or they can cherry pick.
Yeah.
Which we get to know in that discovery session. We get to know what they want, and then we go in and say, okay, you're wanting this, 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 and this. So you just select that, and then basically we implement what they want.
And obviously they're talking to you at the start. Do you have a team? What happens, when there's a little bit much for Lana to do?
Yes, I don't do it all myself. I can't. That's impossible. So basically, I do have a team that are very trained and are also specialists in providing admin support for tradies and construction. So basically, I am the person that manages everything, but also once they're onboarded and, things are swimming along, basically my team back me. So basically, they answer phone calls, or they can help with invoicing and quoting. And basically, they deal with me, but I have team members that can back me up on phone calls and admin tasks and everyday tasks. So obviously, I'm only one person, so I can't do it all.
How often do you check in with a client, for instance, just to check in, things are going great, or can we give it a tweak and a tune up here? Can we improve that? Can we refine that? Can we add this to the process? How often do you have that sort of check-in?
Depends on so I offer clients weekly check-ins, either by phone or email. Sorry, by phone or Zoom, sorry. And I have this new client that I've been speaking about, that basically we have a check-in call every second day at 8 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
So you can actually choose how you want to do it. So I offer everyone a check-in call once a week. And usually that's done over Zoom. But also I can customize the check-ins depending on what the customer wants and needs. So if they want a check-in call once a day, or every second day, or every couple of days, or once a week, or once a month, it's completely up to the client and what they want.
So where do we find you? What's the first step? How do we contact you? Where are you hiding?
Where am I hiding? Okay, well, my website, first of all, which is exceptionaltradiesolutions.com.au, is our website. You can call us on 1300 503 718. Also, I'm on LinkedIn as Lana Burgess, or Exceptional Tradie Solutions as the company page. I'm also on Facebook, Instagram. I'm all over the place. Definitely not hidden.
So you're not hiding at all, really?
No, I'm not hiding, and I'm every platform there is, except maybe TikTok. I'm not on TikTok.
Yeah, well, we don't. I don't know too many builders on TikTok, although I probably have to eat my words. There's probably some closet TikTokers out there.
Yeah, so the website is, that obviously also has my booking link if they want to book a discovery call.
Yeah.
But yeah, or they can call the 1300 number, which I just read out before. But yeah, the website is definitely the first port the first place you'd go to find me, or LinkedIn.
Very good. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure having a chat with you and finding out about all of this stuff. I can't encourage people, listening to this more to look at how you can start to use your time better, because as we've talked about in this conversation, it's not just you. There are other people around you that want you to be there. Your time and your attention is more important than the money to some people. And we've got to get that balance. And apart from anything else, if there's a whole bunch of stuff that you don't like doing, you're not very good at doing, and you can be getting somebody else to do that at a lesser cost than what it costs you to do it, because you should be out there charging the project management rates and all that sort of stuff, not the administration rates. So it just makes a whole lot of sense, and I encourage you to start to look for ways to move this off your plate and start to get a bit more balance and get your business performing in such a way that it gives you what you started your business for in the first place, which is more time, more money, more meaning, which are the three things that are in very short supply in most trades-based businesses. So, Lana, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, Mick. It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much for having me.
It was our pleasure. Thanks very much for being so generous with your time and your knowledge. And folks, just remember, we want you to come and join the Tool Shed. There'll be a link in the description of the replay of this to come and join the Tool Shed. It's free. There's a ton of resources in there. There's a bunch of other podcasts in there. There's trainings that go in there. There's a whole lot of very sharp pencils in there, so you can jump in there and ask all of your questions to very, very experienced, knowledgeable people. There's a lot of people in there that love helping out, supporting, sharing and cheerleading. So jump in there. It's a great environment. It's called the Tool Shed. You'll be able to find it in the App Store and also in Google Play, and you can just grab it on your phone. So that's it for this episode, how to do more of the important. another episode of the Tool Shed podcast. So that's it. We'll talk to you again. Bye for now.